Peace, peace, peace. I am Philip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the July 5th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Do I say holidays or happy 4th of July, or do y'all not celebrate? Like, I know how Negroes are around the 4th of July, especially since Juneteenth has become a federal holiday. You know what I mean? I don't celebrate it, but I know some of you out there, some of you, I'm about to say house Negroes. I'm on my. It's just been a while since I've been on here, so nothing changed. You know what I mean? I call a spade a spade. So happy 4th of July to the house Negroes. Listen, props to those of you who are tuned in on Instagram Live. Your favorite therapist says I'm not celebrating the 4th. Neither am I. But we're gonna get into that fireworks conversation because a lot of my Hispanic brethren have been celebrating the 4th of July, and I wasn't feeling it. You know what I'm saying? Props to those of you who are tuned in on Facebook Live, and last but certainly not least, props to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on IG Live, head on over to YouTube so you can see the nice production that I got set up. So you can see these little videos of Rachel Nichols, talking her racist nonsense, and Steven Jackson feeling like he's a white savior of some sort. You can see all of that over there on the YouTubes. But yeah, like I was saying, my Hispanic brethren, they turned up this weekend. And, I tried to look at the calendar. I tried to Google to see what the 4th of July meant to my Hispanic brothers and sisters and persons. And I just couldn't find it. But yet and still, they had the fireworks percolating where I live. Not only did they have the fireworks percolating, they was throwing a house party to the fact where I had to run outside shirtless. Right, I'm a big black man, so I tried to be intimidating because it was 2:30 in the morning. They was just blasting the music, and you know how they music be. They still be, and I don't want to be stereotypical. I love my Hispanic folk. I got Hispanic friends. Ain't that what white folk do? I got black friends. I can name them all two, three, four of them. And I mean, but it was 2:30 in the morning, and they was acting like it was the early 2000s where you got the super speakers in the back of your little Honda, and you just blasting it to full capacity. And so I went out there shirtless, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "I'm calling the police." Because yes, I will still call the police on people. I'm not a fan of calling the police. I didn't call the police, but I felt like that was a viable threat. And maybe it was kind of manipulative on my part. And so maybe I should say sorry to him. But yet and still, it was 2:30 in the morning. So I didn't necessarily have all my faculties at that moment in time. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? But I definitely wasn't feeling the fireworks. I haven't heard any yet. But I know people didn't just use all their fireworks yesterday. So I'm preparing myself. I hope you're preparing yourself. Because Mup is still going to start tripping. I was on social media, and it was a video of a truck, I believe in Baltimore, that was carrying fireworks and it blew up. No, the first thing in my mind wasn't, I hope the person in there is okay. I was like, I'm glad they got all that out the way. They just blew them all up in one fell swoop. Like they did everybody a favor with that. It's kind of messed up, right? I know I'm not the only one who hate fireworks. Again, I see your favorite therapist say right. Hopefully she's saying right about hating fireworks. Because I just don't, it's not appealing to me. Like you just sit there and you look up in the sky and you just see colors. I don't know. Maybe my childhood was jacked up. Maybe it's some childhood trauma. Maybe I need to sit on somebody's couch. But there's nothing entertaining about that. And so some things we just need to let them have. Because I don't think that's necessarily something that we invented, that we came up with. I know they steal a lot from us. But I just don't feel like fireworks was something that we created. First is loud noise. You know we not fans of loud noise all like that. We selective about our loud noise. We do like colors and all of that. We see what happened in Africa. We good with the colors. Playing with fire, something that might blow your hands off. We done been through too much to try it and potentially lose parts of our being for some fireworks. That's why who was it? Jason Pierre-Paul, when he played for the Giants, or he might have played for the Bucks at the time, but he blew like part of his hand off. It's like, nah, that's not us. We done been through too much. They cut Kunta foot off. So if they cut Kunta foot off, why would we go try and light stuff that might blow our hand off or might blow our foot off? It just don't make sense. So fireworks did not come from us. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know what I'm talking about? But we're gonna keep the party going. Give me 1 second as I pull up this chat for the people that's on the YouTubes and on Facebook. All right, I got that up. So we're going to get into this first story, man. And, if you follow me on social media, you know that I've been talking about it a lot on my post on Instagram, on Facebook. I've been getting some pushback from folk. I've been going on people posts, I've been a little reckless on people posts. And I had to stop myself because I realized that people aren't necessarily interested. Oh, we got a celebrity in the building. Shout out to Kaise, man. Go get his book, Long Division. I got it out here. It's reissued. Go get heavy. Props to the good brother. You know what I mean? But I had to realize I can't just be wild on people posts because people just want to get their ish off. It's not about truth or fact. Sometimes people just want to vent. They just want to get their emotions out. And as I said in my post, listen, it's okay. You know what I mean? Because if that's going to stop you from going out and harming somebody or harming yourself, stop you from getting into a I gotta support you, good brother, always. You know what I mean? If that's going to stop you from harming, just causing harm in any type of way, then I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I'm here for it. And so this Sha'Carri Richardson incident was no different. I was like, I had some black folk mad at me. And so if you're not familiar with what happened with Sha'Carri Richardson, she was hit with a 30-day suspension and her results from the Olympic trials were disqualified. Reason? She smoked a little bit of the ooh-wee. And now first and foremost, full disclosure, I smoke a little bit of the ooh-wee. I throw a little bit of the edible back. That's just what I do. You know what I mean? So I get it. And we all do it for different reasons, right? But I think that's an important thing that we need to discuss as well, especially as a community, our reasoning for indulging in marijuana. But she smoked a little weed. Why? Because she found out that her mother died. And not only did she find out that her mother died, it's the way that she found out that her mother died. Now here she is sitting doing an interview with the reporter. And the reporter like, yo, your mom died. It's like, fam, what? Like, now granted, she was raised by her grandmother. But we're talking about these primary relationships. And I'm not sure what her relationship was like with her mother. It's none of my business. But again, it's still a primary relationship. The person that gave birth to you. And it's not a loved one who's telling you this. It's a reporter who somehow did some digging. Right? Because otherwise, how do you come up with this information? How do you know before I do? Right? And we have the reporter saying, your mother died. I might have punched the reporter dead in they shit. Because that's not your place. Now, maybe that would have been another suspension or a different type of fine. But that's not your place. And we're talking about how unethical reporters can be and journalists can be, especially in this day and age. Where it's more about the story, getting the story out there. It's not about respecting the individual. It's not checking our sources or what have you. It's about, I want to be first. So I want to be first to tell you that your mom died. Like, how nasty is that? right? And so her method of coping was, hey, I'm going to go smoke a little herb. Now, when we talk about how somebody copes, right? Coping is a learned behavior. And so is this the first time that Sha'Carri has ever smoked weed because she was sad, because she was mad, because she was frustrated? I highly doubt it. Right? I highly doubt it. Sometimes you go to your bread and butter, especially when you're feeling stressed, especially when you're feeling grief and dealing with grief and loss, which is a topic that really needs to be discussed in this Sha'Carri Richardson. The marijuana it's definitely a story, right? But it's more about how are black folk coping with loss. And so she went and smoked some herb. She went and smoked some herb in competition. Again, that plays an important part in the suspension, right? And so she ended up being suspended for 30 days. Her Olympic trial times, which were amazing, they don't exist, right? We know it happened because the world fell in love with her, right? Here we have a queer black woman, expressive, this is who I am. The world first found out about her maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago. I've been watching her for the last year and a half. Because I my daughter ran track. I think it's much more compelling than men's track and field. Right? And so I saw her at LSU getting busy. It's just and she's noticeable. Clearly she stands out. The personality. She has everything that makes a star. You know what I'm saying? Yet and still, I'm like, oh, I get the suspension. And this is where folk hit me like, yo, what are you talking about? You anti-black. You anti-black woman. And it's just like, nah, I just got a different perspective based on, my background. Those of you who know me as the social worker, the mental health ball. Right? Yeah, I got the master's degree of social work. I also have a master's degree in exercise science. I know I don't really talk about like that because that was a degree I got when I was about to get out of the field of social work. Catch me on another day for me to have that conversation with you. And so, that year and a half, 2 years that I spent, researching different things related to exercise science, whether it's creatine, whether it's marijuana, whether it's squat efficiency, training efficiency. I specialize in performance enhancement and injury prevention. Right? That's what the specialty is. And so I see folk like, weed ain't never make nobody run faster. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of cringeworthy. And that's the side of me that comes out. Well, technically, I saw Jamel Hill. Shout out to the Queen Jamel Hill. I'm going to talk about her in a few when we talk about Rachel Nichols, her white ass. Right? I see her talking about, unless it's like Doritos, she was on, what was she on? CNN, I'm about to say Fox News. What's the other one that I don't watch? You got CNN, you got MSNBC. Talking about, unless it's like Doritos at the end. And it's just like, yeah, no. It's a lot of misinformation when it comes to it. Does marijuana directly make you run fast? If I smoke it, am I going to run 1,000 miles an hour? No. However, if I smoke marijuana, right, is that going to improve my recovery? If I'm feeling anxious, is that going to help me calm? Right? So think about the aches and pains. Think about when we talk about, people who are afflicted with cancer. Because we know a lot of individuals who are afflicted with cancer, they have the pain, they have appetite issues, right? They might smoke to soothe the symptoms. What happens when you smoke and the pain, the little ache in your knee goes away momentarily? You could run a little longer. you might push a little, you be able to push a little bit harder. And so when we talk about scientifically speaking and anecdotally, because back when I was running 10 miles last year, almost definitely, I was taking a couple puffs. I wasn't smoking a whole L to the face. Nah, because if you smoke a whole L to the face, what's going to happen? You're going to go to sleep. Nah, I had my pen, take a couple puffs, right? Help me zone in and focus. And next thing I know, I'm running 10 miles. And when you run for an hour, you think about everything under the sun. Particularly, I don't feel like doing this no more. Maybe I should stop. But imagine if you're able to focus and hone in. Focus on the task at hand. That's why you see so many, whether it's strength trainers, they take a couple puffs before they train. Again, that's something that I also do. It's a lot easier. It feels a lot better squatting 435 if I don't necessarily feel that ache in my back, or if it's minimized. You know what I'm saying? And so when we talk about it being a performance enhancement, that's a performance enhancer. And so the spirit of the rule is true, right? Another thing to keep in mind, if she would have smoked weed outside of competition, she wouldn't have got suspended. It's only in competition that if you smoke weed. Again, no matter what your reasoning is. Now, her reasoning that she gave was legit. And clearly they believed it because they only suspended her for 30 days. Right? But everybody not doing doing it the legit way. Now, some folk ask, what's the difference between NSAIDs and marijuana? NSAIDs is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So that's your Motrins. Some people get hopped up on Motrins, 1,000 milligrams. Now, and this is a legitimate conversation if we're talking about, looking at the World Anti-Doping Agency and what their rule says. And that's another thing, right? I saw a lot of people talking about how it's legal here. It's legal in America. And again, I'm like, ugh. The World Anti-Doping Agency first isn't based in America. It's based in Canada. And what happens is the United States Anti-Doping Agency and other entities, they adopt what the World Anti-Doping Agency's rules are. Right? So they're based in Canada. Why would they give a damn about what happens in America? And so this is the lack of information that people bring to the forefront when we're talking about this issue. With this isn't necessarily about, and trust me, I always, I live by the thing that race isn't everything, but everything is about race, right? But this isn't about holding a black woman down. It's simply not. And I think people try to conflate issues because we have an issue with marijuana in America and how black and brown folk have been disproportionately affected by laws related to marijuana. Now here we out here, everybody smoking weed. You could go get you a medical marijuana card. But we need to be able to recognize the differences that exist. I was looking it up last week when all this was going down. I looked up, it's a power lifter in Ohio, right? And for those of you who don't know, I'm a power lifter, right? I compete in the USAPL. United States something powerlifting, whatever it is. But they follow USADA, which follows WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. And so if I smoke marijuana and I in competition, I get tested, whatever I did doesn't count. And so was a power lifter in Ohio. Set a bench press record of 740 some odd pounds. Tested positive for marijuana. No longer has the record. And this was a world record. Right? So we talking about everywhere. I think he beat somebody from like Slovakia. Right? Got him up out the paint. And so, unless you do some digging and you look and see, now that I'm not sitting here saying that the rule is right. Don't get that confused. What I'm saying is this isn't necessarily about trying to hold black women back. Now, and that shit with the swimming cap, oh, no doubt, right? No doubt, that's holding black folk back. An attempt to hold black folk back. Because who else going to need a big swimming cap? Right? And so if you want to speak out on that, for sure, I'm going to ride with you. When we talk about Sha'Carri, and I mentioned this idea of grief and why so many of us, black folk in particular, use marijuana in an effort to cope. Right? Partially, I blame hip-hop. Hip-hop has romanticized the use of marijuana. And I don't want you to misconstrue this as me saying marijuana is wrong, because why? I smoke marijuana. But I think it's about what you're using it for. I had a brother come to my group, right? And he was telling me that he used edibles. And he used them damn near like every day. And I'm like, yo, all right, cool. I'm not telling you what to do. But just keep track of when you're using edibles. Right? Keep track of how you're using edibles. When you're using edibles. What's coming up for you when you're using edibles? When he came back to the group, he said, yo. He said, I realized I was using it like if I had a stressful day at work. If I was upset, if I was mad. It wasn't necessarily for me to just, relax and just decompress. I was doing it as a way to cope. And so he started finding other ways to cope that didn't require that. Did he stop using edibles? No, he didn't. But he recognized his usage dissipate. Right? And so when we talk about the use of marijuana to cope, and I see here, your favorite therapist says, I was just reading how ecstasy was approved by the FDA in 2000 to treat trauma. Alternatives should be allowed and explored. It's a money game. No doubt. And that's another thing about this, right? And this is why I appreciate Sha'Carri. Because she's real. She's authentic. She said, I want to take responsibility for my actions. I know what I did. I know what I'm supposed to do and know what I'm allowed not to do. And I still made that decision. I'm not making an excuse or looking for empathy in my case. Right? She stood in it. She owned it. Again, we can have this conversation once all of this is over about whether they need to take a look at that. Right? When we talk about ecstasy being approved, MDMA being used, LSD being used to treat trauma, to treat PTSD. These mechanisms are used. Now, the issue is, when it comes to these things, is it being done under the supervision of somebody qualified to monitor what's taking place? And so, no, when I got this pen, I'm not smoking a whole pen. I might take 2 puffs to help with symptoms of anxiety, right? Or to help with some aches and pains. But when you're taking a whole L to the face, that's the equivalent of drinking a fifth of Henny, right? Because you're not monitoring your intake. You don't know what the dosage is that you might need to work with whatever it is that you're saying is taking place. And so you're over-medicating yourself. With Sha'Carri, if she wanted to, and this is another thing about WADA. If she wanted to get a therapeutic use exemption for where she can smoke marijuana, she can do that, right? They have that option. Even if it's in competition, that option exists. But again, that's not what that was there for. That was a immediate response to a trigger. And people say she was wrong, right? I saw a couple people saying she was wrong. Majority of people are saying they shouldn't be, coming down on her this heavy. I will in no way will I ever say she's wrong for doing what she needed to do in that time to cope. I won't say that at all, especially if it's not detrimental to her well-being. Did it impact her career? We'll see. Right? Because even in her statements, saying she's still young, which she is, right? Tomorrow isn't guaranteed, right? And so we want to be able to maximize our tips, our gifts, our talents while we can. What I didn't see is people talking about these next 30 days for her. I can only imagine what it might feel like, right? What it might feel like here, something you've worked so hard for. I don't want to say your whole life, but something you've worked diligently for. And you made a decision which you felt was in your best interest at that moment in time. And it impacted your ability to participate in that. What is she going through right now? Now, I'm not going to speak anxiety or depression and symptoms into her life, but that could very well be a byproduct of it, which we know influences, whether somebody feels suicidal or not. I've seen people die by suicide for quote unquote less. And so, again, do we care about Sha'Carri Richardson? And I think that's the question that I ask myself. Do we truly care about Sha'Carri? Right? Do we care about these next 30 days? Or do we care about this idea that we have of her just being this super talent? Do we care because it's black protectionism? If you're not familiar with black protectionism, it's something that, especially within the black community, where our elite, our celebrity, we go to bat for them. We ride or die with them, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent. Why? Because we know what it takes to get to that point. We know everything that Sha'Carri had to go through to get to where she is. And so when we look at the Olympics and we look at WADA, we look at Tokyo, we see a system, we see a white establishment. We see white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy. And so we going to insulate her. Now, since we got you, we ain't let you going down. You ain't going down like this. We going to hold you down. And it happens particularly when it comes to our black elite. This might be the best of it. Y'all, because protecting Bill Cosby might be the worst of it. Y'all folk who saying he was trying to buy NBC. What he did wasn't that bad. You judge Joe Brown folk. You Boyce Watkins folk. Protecting Bill. They just trying to hold a black man down. That's still black protectionism. We saw it with OJ, with the juice. There's no way in 95, 96 that we going to sit and say OJ did that, especially in mixed company. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to say that at all. Now, if you catch us in the moment of where it's just us around, we like, dang, We ain't gonna even talk about that. We're gonna be like, damn, Juice, why you go and steal your own back? You try to steal your Heisman back, man. You got one, and we don't necessarily get one. Now you just gonna try to flaunt it in their face. It don't work like that, right? That's black protectionism. Is it successful? I mean, that's up to debate. You know, we got some folk who've done some scholarly work on it. You could go look that up on your own. We saw it with Mike Vick. Damn, it's just dogs. We got black folk out here dying in the streets by the police. Are y'all worried about some dogs? Black protectionism. We gonna insulate you. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Let me just see what I missed some of the comments. Your favorite therapist says it's time to be surrounded by a healthy support system. For sure. Completely agree. Forever Young Personal Care says maybe because of the weed she's available now for the other races because she healed. I wouldn't necessarily say that, right? Because what we know about marijuana, and again, part of the reason why it shouldn't necessarily be used for anxiety or depression is because unless it's monitored, right? Is because there's a lot of evidence that shows it exacerbates symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so in the meantime, and you could be here, right? And you might be sad, you be depressed. This is where Sha'Carri is. And this might take her up to here. She's feeling a little better. She's numb from the pain. It enhances serotonin levels. I ain't gonna get too scientific with you. But what happens is once you come down, you're not here. You're here. Right? And so again, this isn't what's happening with her from that one use. But we see this a lot with a lot of folk who smoke marijuana. So next thing you know, it's not one L I'm smoking. I gotta smoke 3. I gotta smoke in the morning. I gotta smoke at night. I gotta smoke on my break. Because again, I gotta now get back up to baseline somehow. Because now I'm living here. Right? I'm living here. This is a space that I'm occupying. And it's something to be mindful of when we're talking about the use of marijuana. Let me see. She is a black hero, a symbol of success for sure. She can make money on a pro circuit. If she had the goal, she could demand more. Appearing marijuana, in my opinion, is not an enhancer. I think we touched on that, good brother Glenn. You might have missed it a little bit. Right. So, I mean, I wish the sister the best. You know what I mean? She's going to come back hopefully for this 4x100, this 4x100, 4x400, whatever it is. And she want to give her best. Again, when we talk about how she's feeling, right? You train that the 100 is where you get your glory. Right? The 100 is where you get your glory. That's about you. That ain't about the U.S., that ain't about your team. That's about you. That's your moment to shine. She doesn't get that opportunity. And so again, when, and especially seeing how she coped, right? Because this is evidence. This is evidence. It might, I don't know her personally, right? But if we see how somebody copes, we know it doesn't just start that day. And we know it doesn't just end that day. Maybe it might stop momentarily. But my hope is that she's able to find some peace and some solace in this experience. Hopefully she's able to learn from it. Hopefully she's learning how, some, and I hate to say a healthy, adaptive ways to cope. But I'll say it anyway. Right? And my hope is I hope that she's able to work through it. And with that said, we're going to keep the party going. All right, so this next conversation is interesting, man. It's interesting, and again, shout out to those of you who are watching on Facebook. Props to those on YouTube and IG Live. This next conversation is heavy, man. It's heavy because it's more white fragility. It's more white tears. It's more like the caucasity, right? Like it's like the caucasity of this white woman. The caucasity of this white woman. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Rachel Nichols, she is a ESPN commentator. She hosts things like The Jump. She hosts some different things regarding the NBA. And over the last summer, right? Last summer, yesterday an audio came out. An audio tape came out on her discussing some issues that she had with ESPN, specifically when it comes to the NBA Finals and them appointing Maria Taylor, who's this dope sister who hosts NBA Countdown on ABC. She hosts the finals, and Rachel Nichols felt like that was her job to have. Right? She felt like that was her job to have. Better yet, I'm going to let her explain it to you by playing this video. Audio, rather.
Hey, instead of hosting the NBA Finals, why don't you endorse the sound reporter job for the NBA Finals? Because guess what that would clear the way for? For Maria to do the hosting role. Yeah. So, I have declined. I don't know what their next move is, but they are feeling pressure because of all of that, and I'm trying to figure out how to just, my thing is that I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football, she covers basketball. If you need to give her more things to do because you're feeling pressure about your crappy long-time record on diversity, which by the way I myself know personally from the female side of it, go for it. Just, find it somewhere else. You're not going to find it with me.
All right, so that was Rachel Nichols channeling her inner Karen. By saying that ESPN came to her and asked her to do Doris Burke's sideline job when she thought she had the NBA Countdown studio job on lock for the NBA Finals. And she went on to say how it was given to Maria Taylor. Not because she earned it or she deserved it, right? But because ESPN was feeling pressure from what was taking place in society. And remember, this is last year during the uprisings, Black Lives Matter, post the killing of George Floyd. And so she was like, ESPN is capitulating to the pressure because they haven't handled shit right previously. And so they gave it to her. And whoever she was talking to on that phone, they recorded it. And the New York Times got that. And they put it out. And first, listen, I dig it. We having a conversation. I'm venting, even if it's, it might be racist or sexist or what have you. I'm confiding in you. There's some idea or expectation of privacy if we're having this private conversation. I feel comfortable in speaking this to you. So I think she got a gripe there. Whoever her mans is, they not truly her mans. And I think she got that lesson. Right? On to her comments. Okay, I seen a lot of folk, and again, this is, I'm opinionated, right? I feel what I feel. It's just what it is. Her comments were definitely Karen-esque. They definitely were insensitive. They definitely minimized the abilities of Maria Taylor. They definitely, I might have said this already, they definitely scream white privilege, right? All of that is true. However, I don't necessarily think that what she was saying was wrong. I don't necessarily think what she was saying was wrong. Why? I saw what ESPN did to Jamel Hill and Michael Smith when y'all president, not mine, got up there and spoke disparagingly about him. ESPN quickly got them out the paint, right? ESPN has never been good on the right side of these things. And so do I think that ESPN in the backroom conversations were like, yo, this might be an opportunity for us to get on the right side. All we got to do is and gain some favor from the public. We might get some good stories written about us. So you know what? Who do we got here? Let's go through the list. We got Lisa Salters. Nah. We got Malika Andrews. Nah, we're not going to do. Matter of fact, Maria Taylor. Right? She got the aesthetics. She probably speaks so well. We see what she does with football. Right? We going to choose Maria Taylor. All right, boom. Hey, Rach, listen, we going this direction. And Rach like, whoa, I thought you said that was me. I thought that was me because this is what I do. Right? And so here we are. Again, was it a way for Rachel Nichols to potentially convey that in a way that wasn't disrespectful, demeaning, demoralizing, hateful towards Maria Taylor? I think it was, right? But she didn't choose that, right? That's not the lane she was trying to go with. And so I think she definitely deserves to be skewered the way that she's being skewered. I think this is a plight of so many, especially when we talk about the dynamics with regards to race, and something that so many black women are up against. Right? Could ESPN have given that to her just because she was black? Yes. It could have happened that way. Does that mean that Maria Taylor wasn't deserving, that she hasn't gotten passed over time and time again for roles like this, and that she should be there? It doesn't mean that at all. Does it mean that she's not better than Rachel Nichols? Doesn't mean that at all. Right? But again, when you're dealing with these institutions, this is a part of the games that's being played. They pit marginalized folk against one another. And Rachel Nichols fell right for it. Right? Instead of calling a spade and calling out ESPN directly about, whatever practices, her history with it. Right? Because she could have easily did that. She didn't have to mention Maria Taylor. She could have talked about issues that she's had with ESPN. She didn't choose to do that. She chose to inject Maria into it, who's doing her job and doing a damn good job at it as well. And so this caused folks to be outraged. On Twitter, I reposted a video that Maria Taylor did last August. And she's like, "Black women, I see you. I hear you." And this is when all this stuff went down. The public is just now getting wind of this. And so it's like, that's what Maria Taylor, she knew that you got this white woman over here speaking negatively about you, like you not the ish, like you don't have that talent, like you don't have the ability, like you didn't deserve that. Talking about don't give away what's mine, right? Like the entitlement, the caucasity of it all. Ain't shit here yours, lady. But that's and this is where we start to get into these conversations about, right, There's no way in Maria Taylor will ever come out her mouth and say, listen, that's mine. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that privilege. And so for Rachel Nichols, and this is where the issues with Rachel Nichols come in. Again, I think she's spot on in talking about what ESPN potentially did. But talking about don't give her my stuff, ain't shit here yours. They getting people out of here left and right. They got Dan Levitard up out of here. He created Highly Questionable, a show that they now continue to go on with. That's it. We talking about creators. Black creators and how they're stealing stuff that's theirs. How they not putting Bomani Jones on television day in and day out. I mean, he's on Highly Questionable, but listen, the smartest brother you got over there. The most articulate brother you got over there. You bring him in when you got to talk about race. Right? That's the only time you bring him in to these other shows. So it's like we see who y'all are over there at ESPN. And so you had people come out on behalf of Rachel Nichols. And one of them was one Steven Jackson. And this is where I talk about we got to be mindful who we just giving the, and I don't know who's knighting. Ain't this what they do with knighting? They touch both shoulders. Who in the black community are knighting as our leaders, as our thought leaders? Like, yeah, he was front and center with George Floyd. Kudos. But you run into this white woman rescue when it's not needed. Now, initially, he came out with a video in support of Maria Taylor, like, hey, Maria, I see you. Like, Rachel, you got some explaining to do. But then he came out with this video that I'm about to play right now.
We all ramble. We say things when we frustrated, and you know, Rachel did deserve that job. It's just plain and simple. I talked to Rachel, and I know a lot of things she was saying out of frustration because ESPN put her in a bad position, and they even put Maria in a position of trying to give Maria a sympathy job. They was trying to make themselves look good because all the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd stuff was going on. So ESPN tried to make themselves look good by taking the job from Rachel that she had already had, that they'd already told her she had, that she deserved, and give it to Maria just to make themselves look good. It wasn't a genuine job they wanted to give Maria. It's ESPN is behind all this, bro. It's all their fault. You know what I'm saying? I can't blame Rachel. I love Rachel, and I'm going to stand behind her. I spoke to her, and I'm going to stand behind Maria, too. But ESPN, y'all some suckers. Y'all some suckers because y'all did this. Y'all tried to give Maria a job, and it wasn't genuine. And look what happened. Come on, man. It's all ESPN fault. We love both of them.
And so that was Steven Jackson running to that white woman's rescue. Nobody asked him. He wasn't cornered by TMZ to say, hey, Steven Jackson, what are your thoughts? He picked up the phone. He pressed make a video. And then he posted it. And it's just like, who raised you? And to give you the gist, he pretty much said what I said to keep it funky. But he talking about, Rachel, we love you. We talked. I get you. I understand what you're saying. Right? You still got to hold her accountable for the way that she said what she said. Right? It's not about what you say. It's about how you say it. You're talking about it's diversity issues, the reason that you got the job. Even if that's true. You have to be able to articulate it in a way that's not offensive. And clearly, she didn't have that ability in that moment. But Steven Jackson, like so, you know, I don't want to say like so many black men, but Glenn talked about how Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins ran to her rescue. Now, granted, they know her. And so I take that into account. We know people in the day in, day out basis. And even if they might flub up, they don't articulate something as well as they maybe need to. Right? I wouldn't necessarily go out and call her a racist. I don't know her. Was those comments damning? For sure. But I'll defer to the people that quote unquote know her best, know her intentions best. Now, granted, I saw a still shot of her with Tucker Carlson on Fox News. I mean, if I see you on Fox News with Tucker Carlson, right, and you're not debating the other side, then you're racist. That's just me, though. That's how I give it up. So, yeah, I guess I am going to call her racist just because she be holding conversations with Tucker Carlson, right? But for Stephen Jackson to come out and offer, this support when it's just not needed. She wasn't reprimanded. And that was part of the issue as well, right? Because Maria Taylor said, listen, I don't want nothing to do with the chick. I don't want her on my show, right? Now I'm on NBA Countdown. It makes me uncomfortable. And this goes to who ESPN is. They did some pre-recorded stuff with her, told her get over it. That's what they do to black folk. Right? Get over it. Deal with it. Cope with it. And so with that being said, who takes the loss? The black woman, right? Because we don't care what your feelings are in this situation. We value her and what she offers. We don't care how much discomfort exists. You'll be all right. But again, these are who these corporations are. These are who these entities are. Like, I don't know why, and this is where I become personally frustrated with black folk. Because listen, I can, think the world of Maria Taylor. But when people show you who they are, believe them. I'm sure you got Jemele Hill contact information. You could hit her up and be like, sis, what up? What you think about this? Like, what happened with you? We see them get Carrie Champion up out the paint. We see what they do with their black talent who exhibit blackness, right? Because the Sage Steele person, she's a little bit different, right? And so, it's for me, it's just, I'm not shocked. It speaks a lot about ESPN. I think it makes us look at the black talent at ESPN. Are you subjecting yourself to this? If you are, why? Are there not other viable options for you to showcase your talent, your abilities, where you're valued? Maria Taylor's contract is up in I think either this week or next week, sometime during the finals. What happens? Are they going to bring her back? Are they going to, is she going to want to come back? I think for her, it's important to explore options. Don't go where you're tolerated. Go where you're embraced. And that's why it's a beautiful thing to see things like the Black News Network pop up. Because again, it's black folk loving on black folk. And so maybe it'll be a Black News Network sports channel that pops up. So we're not necessarily relying on these entities, even if they do got a strong hold in the area of sports. Because they ain't for us. And if it's one thing that white woman put on display, in the midst of her complaining about her white privilege not going as far as she felt like it should, she let us know what we already know. That this how them muckers roll. Let's see what the comments are saying. Steve says a lot of white folk are all about supporting black and brown folks until and unless it affects them in any direct way that challenges their privilege. Well said. Well said. I completely agree. Completely agree. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh wow! It says she left her mic on her ESPN issued device, so it was on ESPN's internal platforms. The only person disciplined at ESPN was a black employee who forwarded it. I thought I heard somebody on the conversation. Again, I'm not well versed in well, I'm not I don't have that information of how it came about. But again, it came out right, and she got to take what came with it. She got to take what came with it, and it's straight like that. Hey, listen, it's 57 minutes going on. Listen, friend request. Let's see, Keaton Nichols on Facebook. You can watch his show, A Nichols Worth, at 8, coming up in 2 minutes. He gonna be talking about. I believe he's going to be talking about Sha'Carri Richardson, Bill Cosby, as well as this Rachel Nichols incident. So check out the good brother. That's A Nichols Worth, Keaton Nichols, on streaming on Facebook Live. But I will catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.